All right. So today I'm going to talk about classes, why you're picking certain classes given what stats you have available. Because in a perfect world, I mean, if you're playing with hidden potential, and if you're playing with, you're not doing strict screening, your soldiers have different stats, obviously. Now, personally, I like hidden potential because it allows you to have, let's say, an incredibly good infantry or an incredibly good sniper. I don't have these soldiers that start with 65 aim. Instead, I could eventually have like a 71 aim soldier. Now, this right here, that looks like a pretty good gunner or infantry. And that's what I'm going to go over right now as to why you're picking certain classes and what stats you're looking for before you promote into those particular classes. Now, that said, you want a rather even dispersion of soldiers in a particular class. If you're playing with snipers, I've currently stopped playing with snipers, but that said, I feel like snipers, they're incredibly strong, and when I beat Impossible Iron Man, I geared my barracks towards having sniper-heavy loadouts. It doesn't necessarily mean every single map had a sniper, every single mission had a sniper, but there were some maps that were so dominated by snipers, and sometimes depending on the landing zone, it was practically impossible to lose the mission given my drop zone and given the map, as long as I brought a couple snipers, one or two. Well, more so two. I mean, to give an extreme example, imagine a landed transport map on the river map. That map is absurd for snipers. Anyways, that said, let's talk about what you're looking for in each class. So when I look at this soldier right here, I could think infantry, but that's more so if I have Russia bonus for the free HP. So I could get 5 HP on first promotion with Russia bonus. If I don't, I'm left with 4, which isn't the worst in the world. Or I could just say, let's go sniper because of 3 HP. Pretty high aim. I wouldn't make a sniper. I wouldn't make anyone a sniper unless they had 68 minimum to 72 aim. So we'll touch base on snipers first. Let's find someone that absolutely has to be a sniper in this barracks. Right here. This is absolutely a sniper. Low HP, low-ish movement, but it's more so the fact that it has 72 aim and low HP. It's that combination of both. So, squad sight, Deadeye, there's pretty much just one build. At least for me. I mean, now, you could go disable shot, you could go precision shot, you could go snapshot. If you're going snapshot, you're planning for an in-the-zone build. If you're going disable shot, well, you could do in the zone later on. You could do double tap. It's kind of weird with disable shot, but for me, I felt like Deadeye after a lot of experimentation. I felt like did I just say Deadeye? Precision shot. Precision shot is hands down the best. And double tap is going to be hands down the best. It's all about consistency. And that's what I'm looking for in my builds. I'm not looking for some snapshot build where I go snapshot in the zone and I start kill chaining on 5 or 6 drones and maybe I finish off the kill on a cyber disc. That to me is irrelevant. Double tap already brings enough killing 2 things in a turn, potentially. I mean, if I'm going to one-shot a drone, whether I have double tap or in the zone, all right, that's fine. I don't need to have to kill 5 drones in one turn. Drones are generally not that problematic. Same with Seekers. I mean, you hear a 3 to 6 kill chain, and it sounds good, but 2 shots is more consistent, and it's better in most circumstances. At least that's what I found. So I would go precision shot. I would go sharpshooter over ranger. It's better for that aim and crit chance. More about the crit chance than anything else. And vital point targeting is far superior than platform stability and execution. Execution is just a joke. Damn good ground, that's kind of a joke as well. It's flying armor. I get 10 aim from sharpshooter, but it's more about the crit there than anything else. And not always do I get the 10 aim, but. And as far as 1 damage from ranger, early on it's going to seem amazing because you'll probably one-shot floaters. But later on, you're going to prefer that aim against moon elites that are in cover. You're going to prefer that crit chance. I mean, I've been told that the crit chance pretty much makes it to where it's almost similar as far as damage goes, because you'll crit more often, but this will do 1 damage more consistently. But viable targeting is hands down the best pick. The real question is, what do you do on the corporal pick? Because that rather determines the rest. If you're going to be doing snapshot, ranger is what you'd pick, and then you go vital point targeting. You would do lock and load, and then you would do in the zone. I don't like that build. I've tested it, and it is not consistent to where it matters, in my opinion. Disable shot, I like to do sharpshooter afterwards. I'd like to do vital point targeting. I like to bring him on, and I liked doing double tap with that. There is an alternative build as well. You could do precision shot, ranger, vital point targeting, bring him on, and then mayhem. I didn't one-shot so many things to where I felt like mayhem was a superior pick than double tap. Because that's what you're really going for with the ranger plus mayhem. You're trying to one-shot things as opposed to killing it in 2 shots. That's the only benefit there. You might as well have the... so what, you're trying to conserve ammo? You might as well just go double tap. Just do the sharpshooter. I felt like it was more consistent. You do bring them on, then you'd go double tap. So this build, in my opinion, is by far the best build. If I was to do another playthrough with snipers, I would pick this build on every single sniper. I would not have a single disable shot sniper. I didn't feel like disable shot was really necessary. I felt like most of the time I was able to just take everything out or pull back or do some sort of defensive play to where I didn't need what disable shot brought as far as defensive options. Yeah, you could disable shot a Mechtoid or a Cyrodius, but you could just as easily suppress them and sit yourself in smoke. Anyways. And some people like to do marksman rifle disable shot builds. For me, it doesn't even come close to what you can do with a concealment scout and a sniper. So let's jump into a scout. And I'll go more over what each class, like the stats. So the stats determine what class you want, right? I'll touch base on a little bit more on that after I go through every build and whatnot. Okay, so I'm going to look for somebody that looks like a scout. Now what I'm looking for is high HP initially and high mobility right here. I do not care about the aim because if I'm running snipers, I don't care about hit and run. I don't care about in the zone of my scouts. All I care about, now this could also go assault by the way. All I care about is having that high aim, having that high HP and that high mobility initially. And we somehow got HP promotion. That's 20% chance on hit potential, by the way. So every single time it's going to be holo targeting. Now you could even go ranger or deadeye, but why deadeye if you're going to be not shooting things very often? So actually, no, you wouldn't even ever consider deadeye. You could consider ranger. For me, I just went low profile because these scouts run around with a shotgun all day. So maybe you could get some worth out of ranger, but having the possibility of just being in low cover and getting that cover bonus, it's like 15 defense bonus or something like that. The difference from full cover to half cover, 45, 30, yeah, 30 defense and half cover, 45 and full cover. So I just like low profile because it allowed me to take more flank shots potentially, or just take certain positions without having to think twice too much. Because the whole role of the scout here is to support the sniper. That's really its main function, as well as picking fights, giving you the information to maybe you want to ambush some of the alien pods. Maybe you want to just... It allows you to make better decisions having information. So battle scanner is hands down the best pick. I mean, remember, we're not doing anything that relates to combat here. Concealment. And it's really about that concealment. Sprinter. And you could go smoke and mirrors. You could go extra conditioning. For me, I went extra conditioning every time, especially if the scout had low HP. I do not like getting one shot by Rift. But that's also kind of true for almost every single soldier, unless they rolled an obscene amount of HP. With Titan armor, you're barely making it to 20 HP, and you need 20 HP or more to survive Rift in impossible mode. But that's usually not too much of an issue. You're usually not... You should be concealed, man. So we're not going to talk about Rift right now, but that's something you should consider whenever you look at extra conditioning. Is not only is it a really strong perk, you got to think about it in terms of, will this help me against Rift? Will this help me against Ethereals, Silence, 20 damage Silences? Getting one shot is a struggle that you're trying to avoid at all stages of the game. So why would you go smoke and mirrors? You get like an additional battle scanner, I believe, and let's say you had a psi sensitive scout, you could throw psi flashes while being concealed. You get like extra psi flashes. And typically what I would run on scouts is a motion tracker and a flashbang throughout most stages of the game. Later on, that transitions to a battle scanner and a motion tracker. For me, I didn't think smoke and mirrors was worth it. I'd rather have extra conditioning. It's all about survival there. So this is the scout build that is used every single time. There's no deviation there. Remember, the whole role is to support the sniper. And I think having a sniper-heavy barracks running bare minimum 6 to 9 snipers in your barracks, you're roughly going to want to be utilizing 60 soldiers rather consistently. Now, obviously, some are going to get used more than others, but that's generally how many snipers you're going to want if you're running around 60 soldiers. Okay, so we've gone over snipers, scouts. Let's do gunners, because gunners is also rather a supportive role to snipers. For me, when I beat Iron Man Impossible, I didn't utilize high damage gunners. No, I was experimenting with some Overwatch builds with gunners towards the end, and I really liked them. And currently, gunners, they act as like the backbone of my loadouts when I'm running no snipers. So right here looks like a great Overwatch gunner, because you need to have high HP initially, because they're going to be suppressing a lot of the time. They can't transition into that damage role until later. So let's go ahead and promote into gunner here. You don't really need more than 12 mobility. I would not do gunners with 11 mobility. 13, 14, sure, but what you're really looking for is bare minimum 68 aim to 72 aim as far as a gunner if you're more concerned about damage. If you're trying to make a gunner for just suppression and maybe you want to do magic bullet build, something like that, or just you're not really planning on them to really do too much damage, you're more interested in bare minimum 64 aim, and you're probably not going to be doing anything at 70 or above, because you'll probably be reserving those few soldiers that you have for gunners. Alright, so now that's pretty amazing. Also, what determines for me whether I go flush or cover fire is largely dependent upon the first promotion. For me, my gunners are almost every single soldier that has high HP and around 70 plus aim. I try to put the infantry into the ones that have like 68, 69 aim. This depends on how many soldiers I have at that high aim bracket. But that first promotion is 1 to 5. And now it's important to mention this because with hidden potential, that's going to determine what you pick sometimes. Because if I rolled 1 aim, I would be at, what was a 68 aim base, or was it 69 aim base? Well, no, 69. So if I rolled 1 aim, it would have been 70 base aim here. I might consider flush more, and my flush gunners, I prefer them to have more HP than the other gunners, but it's more about the aim than anything else. I want the cover fire gunners to have the highest aim if I'm winning. Now, I'm saying this because I do a heavy focus on gunners lately. So I run a lot of gunners. If you don't run a lot of gunners, you might not value flush gunners very much at all. But for me, that's what I'm currently valuing and doing a lot. So I would go cover fire here, and then the build is pretty clear from there. It's opportunist. You could do ranger, will to survive. I've been liking ranger a lot. It's really great when you get alloy jacket rounds and a Gauss machine gun. You will one-shot most everything with alloy jacket rounds, ranger, and a Gauss machine gun. There's just so much damage involved in that. So, ready for anything. Once you get ready for anything, that puts a massive damage spike for gunners. Now, the whole flush combo here is... Now, I'll do this on another gunner. I'll actually show you the tree, but just imagine for a sec. So, you'd go flush, you'd go heat, ranger, or will to survive, either or, and then you'd go double tap. So, generally what happens is you suppress with the Overwatch gunner. You suppress a target that you plan on flushing. You flush that target, and then your Overwatch gunner takes an opportunist shot at the target that will be running away, right? Giving it crit chance as well. Sometimes it bugs out, and sometimes you don't get that crit chance, but yeah, so you should get the crit chance. So after, whether that's successful or not, the gunner will go into Overwatch. So instead of shooting and going into Overwatch afterwards, you could use a flush, or you could use a suppression and then flush that target. You have to flush the target, otherwise the gunner will not go into Overwatch, because they'll just be sitting there suppressing at the end of your turn. So if you flush it, you will be getting that Overwatch, which is amazing. Now this is particularly crazy against Berserkers, but just in general, this adds so much damage to your squad as soon as you get to this rank with your gunners. So it's pretty much 2 shots at all times. Platform stability. Now that's, you might be like, oh, well, an infantry is 2 shots all the time. Why would I want a gunner? Well, a gunner, you can't do a flush or an infantry, you can't do a flush combo. You're more forced to blow up cover and then shoot at them exposed if you're to have similar chances to hit. And this gunner has rolled some pretty wild aim. Currently, because I run no snipers, because I think snipers are too strong and the AI is just too terrible at dealing with squad sight, especially when you're using battle scanners and concealment, that everything to me just, I don't want to touch too much on that, as this is more about builds, but I think snipers are too strong. So for me, I value extra conditioning, so I don't get one shot by Rift, because it's pretty hard to deal with ethereals. I'll have to mess around with ghost nades more, but I really feel like extra conditioning could be considered over Sentinel. But for everyone else, you're going to be picking Sentinel. I mean, it's pretty clear. You get 2 Overwatch shots when you go into Ready for Anything. That's pretty huge. That's potentially 3 shots in a turn. And yeah, that HP is pretty wild. That's hidden potential for you right there. Sometimes it rolls well, sometimes it rolls terribly. So that's the Overwatch Gunner build. Let's find another gunner potential stat. And I'm just going to plug in the flush build. There is another build, by the way. The magic bullet build. Man, this barracks is terrible for gunners. I can't see anything with... Now, this is okay. This is good. This is gunner or infantry stats. I would try to stay away from a sniper with these stats because the 13 mobility and 4 HP. But if I was desperate for snipers, I'd put a sniper here. Because snipers will be the backbone of your barracks. So, gunner. Now, that's a pretty high aim promotion. I would go cover fire here, but we're going flush. It's pretty rare for every gunner to roll quite well for aim on their first promotion. Ranger, double tap. Now, right here is where it gets a little bit weird. Platform stability was obvious for the Overwatch gunner build, but danger zone, resilience... I'd rather go resilience. It's really frustrating to get one shot by mechtoids that are mind merged. I keep having these playthroughs where I get hit by these mechtoid shots that are something like 18% chance to hit or 30% chance to hit or less than that. Usually it's like 20% chance to hit. And they have some super annoying 30%, 25% chance to crit me. And I keep losing soldiers, even with Titan armor, to mechtoid crits. So I usually go resilience here. I mean, danger zone, you could potentially suppress more than one target. They have to be next to each other for that to even take effect. And this is where the bullet, the bullet wizard build is what it's called, completely revolves around danger zone and mayhem. You get holo targeting, you get shredder ammo, you get danger zone. So if you had 4 targets within just a couple tiles of each other, and you're suppressing the one in the middle of them, you'd be suppressing all 4 of them. All 4 of them have holo targeting on them. All 4 of them have shredder applied to them with mayhem because you damage them. Like there's no, the biggest perk here is that no damage, no aim is required to be successful in shredding those targets. Hence the whole magic bullet sort of title. So would I want danger zone? I used to only build magic bullet builds, and I never really had these moments where it was so crazy to mass suppress something. A lot of the times I would get some sort of like drone or seeker that just breaks that suppression. But sometimes you could have a clump of mutons or thin men or something, just anything clumped up to where you could do some danger zone. But it's so inconsistent that I never build it anymore. I think it's garbage. So for me, I go resilience. Now, you could either go mayhem or extra conditioning. Personally, I'd rather have extra conditioning, especially if the gunner rolled low aim. 83 aim, that's not too much. If you're closer to 90, I might consider mayhem, but anything less than 80, especially less than 80, I would absolutely do extra conditioning. So that's what I would do for a heat gunner build. And it works. It's a high damage build, but it's very, I wouldn't say very supportive, but it has a supportive role for your other gunner. But don't think of it in the terms of support, such as like your concealment scout supporting your snipers or your medics just throwing stuff everywhere and healing people. But it's very vital to be able to flush combo something. It makes those Overwatch gunners do so much more damage. Alright, so assaults, those are pretty much anything with 14 mobility or 15 mobility. Hell, everything with 15 mobility, unless they have 5 HP, is pretty much going to be an assault. There's no... That's the class to go, given those stats. You don't care about aim. That said, aim is valuable for a few things. So right now I have an assault with 69 aim. Now if I had Russia bonus, this would be a 5 HP soldier, and that'd be far more appealing. Getting to that 7 HP benchmark is really what you need to do in the early game. Because with 7 HP, you avoid getting one-shot by most things. If you're in half cover, for example, and you have 6 HP, you could roll no DR, so no damage reduction, and a floater could top end you for 6, and you're dead. You're not always in half cover, but you can't always say that, oh, I will always be in full cover. But that's something to think about whenever you're in half cover with a 6 HP soldier. So that's why getting to having 5 HP is so crucial in the early game. So 69 aim, I would go Ranger. If I had 65 aim or 64 aim, I would go Aggression, because what if I get a 1 or 2 aim promotion at Corporal? But what if I get a 5 aim promotion? Anything that's not close to 70 aim, I don't really want to go Ranger with. I used to only build Aggression, by the way. But I've been doing Ranger a lot because every single assault build for me, when I'm running no snipers, is Ranger and hit and run. This allows you to take some long-range pistol shots on occasion. This is more helpful for, well, I wouldn't say every abduction, but there are typically in abductions and some UFO maps. I can't really afford to close that gap, and maybe I'll blow up cover, and maybe I'll have the option of doing something with my assault other than just sitting there. I will have the ability to pop out a laser pistol or a plasma pistol and do some damage. It's reasonable to be able to shoot twice at an exposed target for, I mean, it's not an infantry aim, but you might have some decent shots. So that's why Ranger and Hit and Run, well, that's why it's so good. A lot of the time, though, I'll be moving out into no cover and taking a shotgun shot at something, or maybe I'll move to cover and then shoot twice. This just depends. Hit and Run is far more versatile than rapid close encounters. And rapid fire, that's more about doing Killer Instinct. I'll go over that in a sec, but we're just going to stick with Hit and Run for now. So for Hit and Run, you're going to be going Resilience. The other two are not really appealing. Killer Instinct doesn't really help very much. Executioner is pointless. You're 100% taking Sprinter. There's no, don't even consider attack sense. You're allowed more possibilities with Sprinter. Now for me, I don't do Lightning Reflex. Vital point targeting should never be considered. For me, I do extra conditioning, get that more HP, because I'm usually putting assaults in positions to where they may get shot at with higher percentages, or just they're more likely to be in danger. So I need them to be able to survive more attacks. And not to mention that 4 aim is actually quite good. If you ever had a 90 aim assault, you can actually take some pretty reasonable long-range shotgun shots, and it's amazing. I'm not saying you have to. I'm not saying that's what you're trying to go for. But sometimes it allows for possibilities if you have high aim. High aim isn't the most important thing for an assault, but when you do have that high aim assault, stuff like having Ranger and Hit and Run is really, really nice. So the other builds, there's not really 2 builds. Or there's not really 3 builds, it's really just 2 builds. You're either going Hit and Run or you're going Rapid Fire. For me, I think Close Encounters is garbage. I would never go for Close Encounters. And it's Close Combat Specialist every single time. There's no deviation there. Also, if you're making some Flush Gunner builds, you can go up to an alien, shoot it, and you can flush it to CCS them. So normally you're not getting much value out of CCS, unless you're in an exalt mission, but you could force that. And there's other strategies such as double flanking an alien, and as long as they can run away somewhere and make it to some cover, they'll pretty much almost always run. Almost always. I mean, sometimes they don't. It depends on what you're dealing with. Oh, and if you're doing the rapid fire build, you're 100% taking aggression. Because it's all about critting and doing, well, I guess too much damage. I don't see why you need rapid fire, killer instinct, and well, some people do bring them on, but I'd still go sprinter even if I had the choice. And some people would even say vital point targeting, but you're building so much damage that what's the point? Are you trying to run and gun an ethereal or a mind controlling sectoid commander? Snipers can deal with that quite easily. Well, easily might be the wrong way of putting it, but they have the ability to deal with them. And you can't always just run and gun an ethereal. You can't just magically show up next to him and survive the next turn. And if you pull more, then what are you going to do? That's always the big problem that you wrestle with assaults. And the one reason why I really hate this build is because it's not versatile at all, because that's what it's designed for. It's designed for activating run and gun and utilizing rapid fire. I mean, you could blue move and rapid fire something, but with the minus 15 aim, you have to be incredibly close or flanking them to really use that effectively. Yeah, it could be pretty good with dealing with mechs, but it's always a question. With motion trackers, you're typically always running a motion tracker on assault just to confirm whether you can move up to certain positions without pulling more. And with that, it makes it not as bad. Or with scanners, you can have some information earlier on. But for me, I'd rather stick with a more consistent build, and that's hit and run. Close Encounters is pretty similar to hit and run, but it's far more restrictive, and you can't do any of those long-range attacks. So I don't like that restriction. For me, it doesn't seem worth it. The main perk, though, with Close Encounters over hit and run is that it allows you to, let's say, shoot at floaters instead. Like, that's the only thing that you can really get an extra shot at, is some sort of flying unit that's right next to you. You can get 2 attacks in, to whereas hit and run, there's no option. You have to be shooting at something that's exposed. And personally, I go extra conditioning in every single build for assaults. That's assaults, that's gunners. What are we left with? We're left with, what, Rocketeers, infantry, engineers? Oh my, so many classes. Okay. So this could be a pretty good infantry. That's the thing, infantry and snipers, they're pretty much the same stat requirements, except snipers, it's not that you really want 11 mobility snipers, it's that you're forced to have 11 mobility snipers, because when you have a barracks that's rolled with 40 soldiers, in a perfect world, I would have, let's say, 20 soldiers with 4 or 5 HP, 70 to 72 aim, almost no will, and at least 12 mobility. And I would make every single one of those soldiers into a gunner, infantry, or a sniper. But you don't have that option. Like, look at this barracks. I have this 3 HP, 13 mobility, 32 will, particularly average or low aim soldier. What do I do with this? For me, that's an engineer. Why? Because engineers have a 70% chance to get HP on hidden potential on their first, third, fifth, and so on promotions. I think it's 30% on their Lance Corporal promotions and their Sergeant promotions. So why engineer? I don't really care about aim at all with engineers. All I'm looking for is high will. I don't really like 12 mobility engineers, but I prefer 13 mobility engineers, specifically 13 mobility, because 14 and 15, that's reserved for assaults and scouts. So this is engineer. Ideally, I start with 4 HP, but that's not my I don't have that option here. So I would go engineer. Now, all right, we're gonna do engineers before we do infantry since I started on this. So right here, I could go either medic or engineer. It depends. Now, I'm not gonna do this in this barracks, but ideally, I'm looking for around 5 to 6 medics initially. More around 5. I definitely want to have around 6 engineers. So I don't know if I have that in this barracks. Because that's another thing you need to consider when you're picking your classes. You're not always picking classes that are the absolute most ideal stat allocation for that class. Sometimes you're just forced into doing that because your barracks has literally nothing of a certain class that is really best for its stats. Maybe you just want to re-roll your barracks and maybe you just want to start a new campaign. But that said, I'm not going to look through this barracks and look at, which ones are going to be engineers and medics and then do the math between that and figure out which ones I specifically want to have as an engineer or a medic. That'd be too time consuming. So when I see a 12 mobility soldier like this is definitely a support. Maybe even more a medic support because I see the 4 defense. Now, I don't want to jump into medics just yet, but that makes me consider maybe I want to go medic, and maybe I want to make it an officer medic. Because officer medics for me always take suppression. So for the sake of touching that in a little bit, I'm not going to promote that one into a medic. All right, so 37 will. All right, so when you're looking at medics, because I haven't said anything on that. When I'm looking through this list, I'm looking for 12 mobility and 11 mobility. Specifically 11 mobility, high will, low aim, and hopefully 4 HP. Although sometimes it's usually around 3. That's what I'm looking for medics. Right here, this is the perfect medic stat roll, although I'd prefer less aim. I don't care at all about aim. Why medic? Because you get free HP. The high will is useful for psi. It's useful for just officers giving will to everyone else. Now, if I was to go an officer, I said I wasn't going to touch on medics, but here we are. All right, so I'd go suppression, smoke and mirrors, smoke nade, dense smoke, and I always go bombard on the medic officers. And from here, you could do a number of things. You could even go extra conditioning. For me, I think I will actually be going extra conditioning in my current playthrough. Although I think Savior is better than Packmaster. I really do, because 5 HP? That's not enough to top off your soldier usually in the later parts of the game. You're usually going to have to use 2 medkits to top him off because everything's going to be doing too much damage at that stage. Plus, it gives you a similar amount of items. Like Packmaster gives you 5 or something like that, and Savior is going to give you, I believe, it's giving you 2, right? But it's making your medkits worth, I guess, they're twice as good. So Packmaster is good, but I think I'd rather do Savior or extra conditioning. But if you're running a lot of snipers, extra conditioning isn't going to be as important to you. So either or, Savior or Packmaster, that's what you'd want. So for psi builds, I would go Steadfast. Why? Just so I could have that higher will. So when the game transitions to psi panics and mind controls, it's a big difference from taking a 60% chance to psi panic something and an 80 to 90% chance to psi panic something. Because if you have 60% chance, you're probably going to want to mind fray that target first, so you can then psi panic it for 85% chance if you had 65 or if you had 60% chance initially, because that would be a better bet than taking. Because if you want to Psi Panic something, it'd be better to Mind Fray and then Psi Panic for 85 than take 260s at Psi Panicking. But if you had 80 to 90, I'd rather take Psi Panic twice. Not to say that not to say you're going to Psi Panic something twice, but you could Psi Panic that, be successful, and then Psi Panic something else and be successful. So getting that additional jump, that 10 to 20 additional will, is quite massive. And with hidden potential, well, some medics are just going to roll terribly, and some are going to be amazing. Or if you're just really unlucky, you're going to have garbage. So I go Steadfast for the possibility of having a few really crazy Psi soldiers. That said, I did have a playthrough where I went suppression on every single medic, and it was great. And with a Psi build, a Psi medic that's not going to be an officer, do combat drugs. For me, the main officers in the playthrough are medics. I usually run 2 to 3 medic officers. I always have an assault officer for covert ops, and just a backup medic or a backup officer of practically any class. It's typically, for me, it's a gunner, because I don't feel like gunners have a good... They're not really good for Psi classes, I feel. Because they're not going to be wanting to use that Mind Fray or Psi Panic or anything. And if you had Mind Control with a ton of will, which is rare, sure, okay, that'd be amazing, but that's a lot of Psi rings to go through, and generally not worth the investment. So let's go back to engineers, because what I was getting at here is it matters. The will matters. Typically, I promote the highest willed engineers. I also look at their defense, whether it's negative defense and their HP. So the lowest HP, lowest defense, and highest willed engineers become support engineers that go smoke nade, smoke and mirrors, repair, dense smoke. Now you could go Packmaster heat. I've really found that I don't really need that many items, and I would go extra conditioning. Whether you're running a lot of snipers or not. I mean, I'm really picking extra conditioning a lot lately because ethereals are too dangerous. But I just don't feel like you need that many items. Once you have tactical rigging, that's a lot of items. You don't really need Packmaster. What mission is so long that it really demands that? A base assault? Even then, snipers do so much work in a base assault with a concealment scout. That's practically all you need. And Bombard is something that you'll be taking always. I don't feel like Tandem Warheads is good on the combat build, which is Sapper, Heat. Hell, I'll show that in a sec. I think Bombard allows for far more possibilities. And there's also another deviation to the Psi build. So the Psi build, you have Steadfast instead of Suppression. You have Combat Drugs instead of Dense Smoke. So the 20 will. And I usually pick Sprinter. But if it was a low-willed Psi soldier, so let's say I have Psi Panic and I'm already a Gunnery Sergeant, and the medic has 60 will, I might consider going Bombard instead. I feel like Sprinter's far better if you have a really high-willed Psi soldier, like 80 will, something like that. It allows you to be safer with that soldier, because you can blue move much farther distances. You can keep him back and move him up to do Psi abilities, stuff like that. You can keep him farther back, essentially, and it allows you to just move around with them more. It just feels a lot better than Bombard, because the main perk of Bombard over Sprinter is, well, they're practically the same thing. It's just that if you don't have cover to move to, Bombard is going to be better because you just straight up cannot throw a flashbang or a chem at a target that you can't reach. So that's really what Bombard brings to your loadout. Now, let's say you throw a smoke nade at your own soldiers, and then you want to well, you wouldn't be able to flash if it was an officer. But let's say you had flash where you had acid, a chem nade. You would be stuck in your position to use that chem or flash, right? Well, your ability to throw that flash or chem at the enemy it's more consistent. It's all about consistency in the builds, I feel like. So that's why Bombard is better than Sprinter. But Sprinter would pretty much be the same thing if you weren't moving your soldier into harm's way potentially, and if you had endless cover everywhere. It'd be pretty much the same thing. Lock and load for endless suppression, that's not really something that should be considered. The possibilities with Bombard or even Sprinter far outweighs that. Because why suppress something when you can flash it too, or you could chem it? You don't need to. You have so many options of control with a medic. You don't need to waste a perk on lock and load. It's really not necessary. And with Gauss weaponry or ammo conservation project, that's 2 suppressions in a row without having to reload. Never mind putting high cap mags or a drum mag on your soldier. Yeah, definitely not lock and load. So where are some more engineers? This could be engineer, this could be medic. I'd rather pick engineer though because of the low HP. So this one has 40 will. I don't really want to promote like 6 engineers and be like, oh, this one should be a support and this one should be a combat one. Instead, I'll just more explain as to why. So the reason why I say that your support engineers should have more will, ideally, than your combat engineers, is because if they're going smoke nade and smoke and mirrors, you're going to want to make them psi sensitive, and you're going to want to give them psi flash as soon as possible. That generally happens around October or August in your campaigns, because you should be getting your psi lab up in July or August, somewhere around that time frame. To delay psi labs for a long time really doesn't make sense to me, because psi allows for more possibilities of control. I'll do a video later on about control, but for now it's just going to be classes. So it's more important to get psi sensitive on the support engineer than it is the combat engineer. So I'd probably go support here, but I don't think I've plugged in the combat engineer perk tree. Now I want to go suppression with the combat engineer. It's typically the high HP engineers that don't have negative defense, ideally, or not more than 1 negative defense. They're going to be, ideally, they're going to be going suppression, regardless of their will. If they have high HP and they don't have negative defense, or if they do have positive defense, then they are 100% going to be a combat engineer. Going mayhem. It's either Packmaster or extra conditioning. This heat ammo is a joke of a perk. It's not really an option. Now, you could go Dandom Warheads. It does add a lot of damage if you're bombing multiple things. For me, I think Bombard is just better because it allows for more possibilities. It's the same reasoning why go Bombard on a medic. You would be surprised having Grenadier, that 20% throw distance, that 2 additional tiles, base throw distance is 10, and having Bombard's 50%, right? It's you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised at what possibilities this could allow. Because one of the biggest perks between having a Rocketeer versus an Engineer is that the Rocketeer can blow stuff up at a long range to where an engineer can't really do that. It's more close range to mid range. To whereas Rocketeers, they can get those long range targets. But with Bombard, you're a mobile Rocketeer, essentially, that can destroy cover. It's quite crazy. You should always go Bombard. I don't feel like that possibility of doing some extra damage is worth it. And let's not even start on a fire rocket. That's not something you should ever consider. It's garbage. You have nothing that really supports firing rockets other than, I guess, mayhem. Yeah, you have heat warheads, but it's not. You're not going to be able to shoot as far as a fire in the hole Rocketeer. Will you even have the aim to do it? Are you going to be steady weaponing so you can fire a rocket? That's not why you have an engineer. You have an engineer so you don't have to steady weapon, so you can move and throw a nade. It's all about throwing the nades, it's not about shooting a rocket. You don't want to mix up those roles there. It's not really worthwhile. It's inefficient. All right, so I think I've touched enough on engineers. I don't know if I've said enough on medics here. I feel like I've covered most of it. It's pretty straightforward with the medics. I will say one more thing. Revive, paramedic. I don't think field surgeon is good at all. I think it's garbage. Like, you're talking 1 HP. Reduce or eliminate recovery time of non-critically wounded soldiers. Wound time, as if the soldier's lowest hit point during the mission was 1 higher. So Sarah Harris has 5 HP. If I had paramedic, or if I had field surgeon on Sarah Harris, and Sarah takes damage, she goes to 3 HP. She'll be taking the wound time of 4 out of 5 HP with field surgeon. It is such an insignificant amount of time that it doesn't matter. It's really, really small. And if you have someone with 10 HP and they go down to 1, the difference of 2 and 1 becomes even crazier. It's mind-blowingly bad. Do not pick up field surgeon. If you had 4 out of 5 HP, it might seem good, but it's not. Don't fool yourself into thinking that. Now, a revive build is with paramedic is great in general, but you really have to have smoke nade with smoke and mirrors. Paramedic is a great perk, by the way, and you would want to have revive typically. You could do smoke and mirrors, and you could do paramedic and just put on a smoke nade with your soldier, but the main perk of the smoke nade is that you can throw a smoke nade without ending your churn. Having the ability to do an action without ending your churn is something that really starts to take effect in the mid game. There's a lot of perks that do that. For example, suppressing something with an Overwatch gunner and then flushing it. Your Overwatch gunner goes into Overwatch, and your flush gunner can then double tap something. It's the same thing with the smoke nade thing here, except you're kind of given the option to do something to whereas your Overwatch gunner has to go into Overwatch. So that's huge, and that needs to be considered. But anyways, revive, paramedic, you'd go opportunist next, and then you'd go, I don't know, sprinter. You go sprinter, then you'd go savior. That build is more so for maybe the temple ship, but that's not that bad of a mission that you really have to have that. Be more base assault, but if you're using your snipers well, that's not really a thing. You don't really need a revive medic ever. Just try and control things first before trying to revive dead soldiers, assuming they even got stabilized in the first place. That said, sometimes I really get annoyed. I really get annoyed when a mutant elite nades me, and I'm next to a car, the car's burning, and my soldier's on the ground needs to be stabilized. And I just know they're dead. That is incredibly depressing, and sometimes I wish I'd revive. But, no. Alright, so we got infantry and rocketeers. Rocketeers, for me... Alright, so I said earlier how gunners... The priority is snipers and infantry, though. Or an Overwatch gunner. The priority for the high aim classes goes to them. Or the high aim soldiers goes to them. Snipers, they don't need any HP, they don't need any mobility. So if I see a 3 HP, 11 mobility soldier, that's going to be a sniper if it has high aim as well. They typically have high will too, but that's irrelevant for snipers. So the gunners, they need more HP than the infantry when I'm looking at the high aim soldiers. So what does that leave me with? I have the high aim soldiers with mid HP are infantry, the high aim soldiers with high HP are gunners, and the low HP ones with no mobility are then snipers. So where do rocketeers fit into the whole mix here? Well, typically rocketeers are 4 to 5 HP soldiers with mid aim. I don't care if they have 11 mobility, and a lot of the times they do. Right here could be a pretty good rocketeer. You could even go gunner here and do a flush build or a magic bullet build. It's got positive defense. 4 HP is good enough to start as a gunner. But that's possible. I'm generally looking for those average stat rolls. They don't really excel at anything. For example, right here, this is completely average. In fact, I believe if you did, I could be wrong, but I believe if you do strict screening, you start with 65 aim. It's either 30 or 25 will, or is it like 12 or 13? I don't know. I think it's 13 mobility, and you start with 4 or 5 HP. But this is pretty similar to strict screening. It's pretty much average in every way. That's usually what I put my rocketeers on, because everything else is pretty much occupied. The other roles are more important. I'm not saying a rocketeer is bad, but it's more important to spend your high aim recruits on those other classes. And rocketeers typically get a lot of aim. That said, if I had a 5 HP, 72 aim soldier that I turned into a rocketeer, I wouldn't be so reliant on getting fire in the hole, which is huge. It doesn't force you to steady a weapon every single time, but that's also going to depend on the aim. This is pretty good aim. We're close to 80 at Corporal with fire in the hole, but we started with 65. That's really good. But I could also be at near 70, 71, 72 aim with fire in the hole at Corporal. In that case, I'd also look at their will as well, but I might consider meching that soldier. You just got to keep rolling and see how it goes. So the Rocketeer build is the same every single time. Now, I could even consider extra conditioning. I've been thinking about that some, but Shotgun is incredibly good, and Tandem Warheads is better than the rest of them. Javelin Rockets doesn't allow you to go that much farther. Fire in the hole generally gets you that extra distance to where it's enough. Danger Zone is just straight up hilarious. I will say that. It's hilarious how big it is. But Tandem Warheads is amazing. Man, if you've ever shot a Tandem Warhead Shredder Rocket at a floater group, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. Or just watching everything get destroyed with a recoilless rifle, which is the Gauss version of a rocket launcher, and shooting at stuff in cover. So Tandem Warheads is the clear choice, but Danger Zone isn't too far behind, and if you want to just have some fun, don't feel too bad about picking that up. Okay, so that's the Rocketeer build. Will to Survive is not to be considered. Ranger, some people like Ranger. I think it's not worth it. I have Rocketeers to deal with robots that do a lot more damage to them. I mean, yeah, it gives you 1 damage, but it's not good enough. It helps you more against floaters, and if you're not playing on impossible mode, this seems like a better perk than it is, but it's really not that good. Some people like to do rapid reaction and do like some sort of like weird suppression and Overwatch sort of shenanigans with a Rocketeer. I think that's ridiculous because you're building a Rocketeer not so they can shoot rockets, then maybe barely do something that's useful. You're building a Rocketeer to shoot rockets and shoot those rockets and be really strong at doing that. It's much better. I mean, having 2 Shredder rockets, having 3 regular rockets, that's a lot of rockets, man. How many rockets are you gonna use? It's not like you're just gonna magically run out of rockets unless you're just wasting rockets and not thinking twice before you shoot them. You don't just run out of rockets. You're gonna run out of aliens to kill. So I would not do any sort of rapid reaction, opportunist overwatching shenanigans with suppression. I wouldn't do any of that. I guess you'd pick up platform stability, wouldn't you? Well, anyways, I don't think you should do that. I think this is the best build, and there is no deviation. This is the build every single time with a Rocketeer. The Rocketeers that don't roll well turn into archers. The ones that roll well turn into Psi Rocketeers. So last class is infantry. So where are you? Where's an infantry? This could be a pretty good infantry. Now, if I have Russia, if you start with France, which is, I'll go over a video later about starting locations, but France, I think, is by far the best. It is the best, hands down, the best starting location. I don't want to try to pronounce it, but it's the 40% council request France starting location. That is amazing. That changes everything, because if I see a 3 HP, 12 or 13 mobility soldier with 68 or 70 some aim, I don't have to be, oh, this has to be a sniper because of the 3 HP. I could say, oh, this could be a pretty good infantry. It allows for more options in my barracks. So that should be noted. Well, I didn't quite say why. The reason why is because if you're starting in France, you can easily launch a satellite into Russia with no punishment, and the Russia satellite bonus is 1 HP to all assaults and infantry, which I feel like is the strongest satellite bonus. Anyways, so for infantry, it's pretty much crit build. I've experimented with tank build, going steadfast, will to survive, suppression, lock and loads. It's not terrible going resilience, going extra conditioning. It's not terrible, but it's not that good. I don't feel like it really did a very good job, because what's the point of doing that exactly? What's the point of going steadfast? Now, you get a lot of will. You get 8 bonus will there, and if you go extra conditioning, you get 12, right? That's a lot of will. So there's this one particular Fury, if you succeed on the Fury's mission, that has, I think he always has 70 aim and 5 HP and like 12 mobility or something like that. But he starts with like 50 some will. And later on, Psi soldiers are so powerful that it's about what they could do with those Psi abilities rather than shooting. I don't care about his aim, even though he starts with high aim. But I could shoot and then suppress something. That's not too bad, but it's just really not that strong. You could do, I'm leaving out Overwatch infantry. I don't think it's good, though. I don't think it's good in comparison to Gunners. Gunners is far better. I'll say why in a moment. But anyways, what I really feel like is the best, no, I'm sorry. What I feel like is the main perk to a tank build is the fact that you get a lot of will. And when I'm looking at that high will and high aim, I might consider some sort of tank infantry, but it's not. It's really specific, because they can't have. Well, they could have low HP if you have a satellite in Russia. So this build, if you get to high enough this guy has a lot of aim. I don't know how that happened. 97 aim. So if you get to a lot of will, you could have a really dangerous Psy Soldier. And once you get to mind control, your Psy Soldiers are the strongest soldiers in your entire barracks. Nothing comes close, not even a sniper. Because mind control is so crazy. I mean, think about it. You mind control an alien, and they act as a target for the aliens. They kill their own alien, their own friendly guy, and you can do so much damage with them. It's control and it's damage in the same in one action. It's literally insane. So I think that's what the biggest perk is when I think about going a tank infantry, or if I have a tank infantry, the possibility of rolling really high on will and getting the 12 additional will from these perks is great. So that said, let's go plug in another soldier. Now, if I had Russia, I would not think twice about promoting him to an infantry. A lot of the time, in my current campaign, I am running Argentina. I promote a lot of 3 HP soldiers into infantry. Good, got HP. So what I like to do for pretty much every single build with infantry is executioner, aggression. Now, you see how he's got 80 aim? I would go ranger here. If I had 77 or less aim, I would go Deadeye. I would never go suppression. But I feel like if you have at bare minimum 78, but if ideally where ranger really shines is if you have around 82 aim, 81 aim, around 80. I mean, you could get more than that. You could have like 85 aim at corporal before picking ranger. Depends on how crazy hidden potential rolls for you. So after that, it's sharpshooter. Lock and load is not as good. Bring him on. Now, if he had 95 aim, somewhere around that, 94 aim, I might consider rapid fire. He didn't roll very well going from ranger all the way to bring him on. I would go extra conditioning for that additional aim. Yeah, you rolled 1 aim there. If I had gone rapid fire, it wouldn't be very useful. You can't shoot at mood and elites very well with that much aim and getting at the negative 15 penalty. No, because you'd shoot once and then you'd rapid fire, right? And unless you had lock and load, you're going to be reloading more too. It's not really good unless you have a lot of aim, and I haven't actually really picked rapid fire very much at all. Is vital point targeting nice? I don't think so. I'd rather have that additional HP and, more importantly, the 4 aim. It's more important to hit that. It's better. I'd rather have, if I had an 80% chance to hit something, I'd rather have an 84 instead of potentially doing more damage. I feel like it's more consistent to not fail, get closer to 100. Anyways, I don't really like rapid fire, but it's something that you could consider if you have an absurd amount of aim. Now, there are other perks such as the officer bonus, where it's 2 aim per continent bonus that you have. That, and if you get a field commander really early, and you start getting that 1 aim, 1 will, a maximum of 8, by the way. That's up to 18. Now, that's crazy late game to have gotten all of those field commander. This only works if every single soldier survives on the mission that the field commander goes on, getting that additional aim. So that could make you consider going rapid fire, but you gotta think about the ammo though. That's also going to be a potential restriction. You could consider vital point targeting too if you had a lot of aim. You wouldn't have to consider extra conditioning. That'd be a good alternative to get additional damage other than rapid fire. But for me, I'd rather have extra conditioning. Even if I had 95 aim on this infantry, I would rather pick extra conditioning. I'd rather go up to over 100. So I guess it's not such a It's not such a defining perk there, but I just feel like it's better. Maybe I'm wrong there. I would need to test it more, but I feel like that's the better pick is extra conditioning. Oh, and Overwatch builds. I guess I'll plug in the stats really quick for that. But it's not something I ever built. I think I built it once or twice. No, I probably built it only once. And as soon as I saw Overwatch Gunners, it didn't make sense to me as to why I'd want to go this at all. Now, you could go Range or you could go Deadeye. I guess, you'd go Lock and Load. And you go Sentinel. You get Sentinel sooner, which is nice. And I guess it's Vital Point or even extra conditioning there. Let's say you did extra conditioning. 81 aim is terrible. It's terrible. Oh my. I don't think I've ever actually built an Overwatch infantry, but they do far less damage. You can't really do a heavy rifle on an Overwatch infantry because since they'll actually get that negative aim on their Overwatch shots. So you shoot and then you go into Overwatch. Go out of ammo, reload, go into Overwatch. They have far less ammo. It's a problem until Lock and Load. They do far less damage. And Gunners, Overwatch Gunners, they get a lot of free aim from their perks. They're going to be pretty similar. It's not like just because infantry have a higher aim progression doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to end up with a lot more aim than an Overwatch Gunner. I mean, it's hidden potential, you know. If you don't run hidden potential, maybe it's different. Yeah, I think Deadeye is something to consider here. I think I'd probably go Deadeye over Ranger, but I think either could be considered. Depends on the aim. Really depends on the aim. If they're kind of average or slightly above average, I'd go Deadeye. Unless they're absolutely crazy and they rolled perfect promotions practically for aim, I would go Ranger. But it just doesn't match the Overwatch Gunner. So assault rifle, that's 3 to 5. Battle rifle, 4 to 6. But you're going to be using the assault rifle pretty much. 3 to 5 damage. Now this is just the base ballistic weapons, okay? But you're at 4 to 8 there with an LMG, and you can pick Ranger without any downside. I guess there's not really much of a downside for the infantry, other than valuing it over Deadeye. Deadeye is quite strong. Even if you wanted Deadeye, you wouldn't have Ranger, okay? So you have a much higher damage weapon plus Ranger, and you have that squad sight. Never mind the damage. Never mind all the things you can argue and reason with that. That 5 additional tiles of squad sight is really, really strong. And you can usually one-shot things with an LMG. That with Ranger and Alloy Jacket rounds. But you could also run Alloy Jacket rounds in infantry. I don't know. I don't like the Overwatch build for an infantry. I feel like if you want an Overwatch build a gunner. So that's all the classes. I'll do at a quick glance, what would you want things to be? Right here I could consider an assault, or I could consider an infantry if I have Russia bonus. Right here is definitely an assault. Right here is either a Rocketeer or maybe a gunner. Right here, I would more so lean towards infantry regardless of Russia bonus or not. I think that's pretty good aim. Again, you're also going to think about your entire barracks and whether you're promoting 8 infantry and 2 scouts. You have to think about that. So this is either a scout or specifically a concealment scout or a assault. Now, with snipers, I think the only build is concealment build. If you don't run that, did I even talk about that? I don't think I did at all. But another build would be holo targeting, Ranger or Deadeye, Battle Scanner, hit and run with, I guess, sprinter extraditioning. Like, you could do a somewhat of a combat build scout, and I have a few of those in my current playthrough. I don't have very many concealment scouts. A lot of my concealment scouts are going to get mech'd pretty quickly. So without snipers, I run some damage scouts now. So at a glance here, infantry, you could have a pretty high aim assault and it'd be nice. Right here is either a support class. There's not many snipers in this barracks. I'm just going to glance through. This could be a sniper. Low aim, or high aim, low HP. And this could be infantry, overwatch gunner, even a sniper if I was crazy desperate, but I wouldn't want to. I'd want that to be probably an overwatch gunner. All right. Well, I think I covered most everything on that as far as what to pick in the beginning, why you're picking it based on the certain stats. And remember, it's not so much that it's more about using the soldiers that you're given. That's more what picking the classes is about. There's a few differences, like, oh, do I want Deadeye or do I want Ranger in my infantry for like my crit build when it comes to that. But what you're really trying to do, to sum it all up, is that you're trying to get a balance in your barracks, and you're trying to use every soldier that you're given. I mean, if you get a corporal soldier request and you don't like their stats, I don't know, find a role that works for them, you know. You can't, it's not like you're just going to want to waste that soldier. It's more what picking the classes is about, and it requires some thought. So I hope this helps you guys kind of figure out what to pick when you're looking at a starting barracks, and hopefully do better in your campaigns. If I left anything out, or if you have anything to comment, just put it in the comments below. All right, have fun in XCOM, guys.